Okay, no gavel. So welcome everyone to the May 2025 meeting of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee. Roll call. I'm John Davey, the chair. Oh, I have my microphone on. Sorry. Now you can't hear me in two places. We have Vice Chair Tim White. Vice Chair John Rasler might be joining us virtually tonight, and I don't see Vice Chair Brooke Washburn. Secretary Bill Jamaica. And with that, you know who we are. So I'm going to share this. Sorry, gang. It's hard to drive and talk at the same time. Is it sneaking up on me? There we go. So as we move forward, the first opportunity we have tonight, if I can get to the right screen. There we go. Call the meeting to order. Adoption of our meeting agenda. Are there any changes from the officers that are proposed? Okay, then we can move forward. When we begin our meetings, we have an opportunity for public comment for items that are not on our agenda tonight. If there's something on the agenda you want to address, we ask you to wait until we get to that item. So we'll work in the room first. And when we do in the room, we ask you, if there are microphones around out there, these are only for our Zoom and for our recording. They're not for in the room. But as long as it's green, you can talk. There's one over here that's ready for you that's green if you want to walk up to that. So with that, we go to the room first. So is there anybody here who'd like to submit some public comments before we get going with the rest of the meeting? Well, there's nobody raising a hand.
All right,
Oh. Bill's not raising his hand. So with that, I will go online. Is there any members of our attendees online via Zoom that would like to raise their hand for public comment for agenda items, not for matters that are on our agenda? And I see no one there. So moving ahead, we like to remind everybody when we start is how you become a voting member of APAC. If you live in El Dorado Hills, you're a member of APAC. If you want to be a voting member, we ask that you help out with some volunteer work with review, a subcommittee, an ad hoc committee, or other projects that APAC is taking on. And when you do that, we'll help you with reviews and how we approach project reviews. And I always say you might have a better idea or way to do it than we've been using it. We're open to hearing all of it. So after that, our item next is supervisor communications, an opportunity to hear from our supervisors. Supervisor Turnbull is not here tonight, but Supervisor Ferrero is. So Greg, you know where the microphone is.
Sure. Is it on? Yeah. Whoops. Well, good evening, everybody. For those of you that don't know, my name is Greg Ferrero. I'm the District 1 Supervisor. We didn't meet last month, so I was going through my notes trying to figure out what to talk about tonight, and we'd be here for the whole night if I went on, but
we still might.
It's yeah, it hasn't been a good couple months. For the first time in years, the county has to cut our budget to the tune of $15 to $20 million, and earlier in the year, we addressed cuts to our transient occupancy taxes and made a bunch of cuts to our external partners with that, and now we're looking at internal cuts to our departments to the tune of not filling empty positions and budget cuts. Is it 10% to each department approximately? Yeah. So it hasn't been. The meetings have been kind of depressing, to be perfectly honest with you. Most of the state is experiencing this, and our issue with our county is that the property taxes and sales taxes are just not, they're flat at best. Our property taxes are down, and that's due to the stagnant housing market, and then sales taxes are down as well. And I was actually at a meeting with Janelle Horn last week. She's our recorder clerk, and she records she does all the public recordings for the county, including sales transactions of homes. And she said typically, on a typical year, she averages about 60,000 transactions a year. Last year was 37,000. So those aren't all a drop in home sales, but it's an indicator. Interest rates are up. People are having problems getting insurance. So it's trickling downhill. And today the May revise came out for the state. I haven't seen it, but I don't think it's going to be good. So there might be more cuts. And then you have the unsettled federal government also, and the relationship between the feds and the state. And it'll reflect on the county, unfortunately. So, and then they're projecting 25, 26 being very, very similar. So anyways, on a positive note, on May 18th, the El Dorado County OES, in partnership with the Sheriff's Department and El Dorado Hills Fire, are conducting a emergency evacuation drill to prepare for a wildfire. And that's going to be focused on the Lake Ridge Oaks neighborhood. Does anybody live in Lake Ridge Oaks? And I'll just read you the email because it provides enough content, but this is going to be on May 18th at 9 a.m. The evacuation drill is an actual evacuation of the area. The purpose of the drill is to exercise law, fire, and OES capabilities, as well as show the community how an evacuation is handled during a real disaster. Only residents who have opted in to participate will be evacuated. So the departments have noticed the neighborhood, and the neighbors had to opt in. No alert or notification will be sent to residents who did not opt in to participate. Participants will evacuate to the CSD, which will be set up as a shelter. A short time later at 11, they will start a town hall meeting discussing the pros and cons of this evacuation. And I believe the public is invited to that also, not just the neighborhood. Chief Hall, do you have anything you want to add about that? Or?
No, that's it.
Okay.
The town hall meeting will start at 11 o'clock. I'll be at the CSD.
Okay. I do have a flyer here. I have one. I will leave it up here in case anybody wants to check it after the meeting. The traffic impact fee update. So as some of you may know or been following, the board adopted a traffic impact schedule, a fee schedule back in December. The fees were exceedingly kind of high, especially for this area. The building industry approached us, and we entered into a tolling agreement, which is an agreement to negotiate the fees. But in the meantime, DOT found an error in the math of the Nexus study that the consultant provided us, which determined the fees, and they were way off. So they've been working on correcting the fees. They're gonna go up slightly. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's going to be very close to what they were previously. And DOT is going to be making a presentation on Tuesday at our Tuesday meeting on the new schedule. Part of the budget cuts, and I just want to talk about this because it's extremely controversial, and I did vote for it, but part of our budget cuts that we cut in El Dorado Hills specific was the senior daycare program in El Dorado Hills at the Gilmore Center. And the senior daycare is one program of many at that center. We have a similar program in Placerville in a larger facility, and I'll just tell you, we did respond on Nextdoor as to what my decision was to justify that decision. But there were 16 people enrolled in a program. 4 of those people were not from the county. They were from Sac County. On an average day, they averaged about 7 to 8 people a day. Hiring people is extremely challenging because they're basically minimum wage workers, and there's a huge qualifying background that needs to be done with them. It's actually, the senior day is very similar to a child daycare center where, there's people with dementia and Alzheimer's, and they need to be watched and supervised. And so the employees there, they always have to have someone someone there watching them. And so it requires at least 2 people a day in case someone needs to go to use one of the supervisors has to use the restroom or not, or something like that. But, so they did survey the participants. About half said that they would go up to Placerville. We'll see if that happens, because what we're doing is we're closing the El Dorado Hills Senior Day Care Center and combining it with Placerville, which can accommodate more people. There is going to be transportation available with El Dorado Transit to get people that live in El Dorado Hills or Cameron Park up to Placerville on a daily basis. And then literally, I mean, coincidentally, literally the week we were deciding this, I was at a chamber lunch and sat at a table with a woman who is opening a private senior day center literally across the street or down the street from the Gilmore Center. And the price is, it's higher than our current price, but the county is raising our prices anyway, so it's going to be pretty comparable, and it actually might be a better program than the county's. But that's opening in May. So for those reasons, I'm only one of 5 votes. I could have dug my heels in and said, I don't want to vote for this, but I did, and those are my reasons. So I just want to air that out in full disclosure. I know I've received a lot of ridicule for that decision. So just wanted to fill you in on that. Our final budget for the recommended budget will be June 10th. So we'll have some confirmation on, what we're actually cutting come June 10th. Active projects right now, you're going to cover that, so I won't go into that. This Saturday, the CSD is hosting their annual fishing derby at the Serrano Pond. The lake is going to be stocked tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. I think it's sold out. Just yesterday, we approved the interchange project, the final stage of the interchange project for the Latrobe and US 50. And what they're going to do, the final, it's been a multi-year project. The final changes are going to be widen the cloverleaf on the eastbound 50 off to northbound Latrobe. That's going to be widened. They're also going to widen and add another lane to the eastbound on-ramp and add another lane on northbound Latrobe that goes underneath the freeway, so it'll be 4 lanes instead of 3 now. And so that's going to take place. Construction should start spring of 27 and with the completion date of 2028. So that's a good thing locally, because that especially that addition of that 4th lane is going to be great for the northbound traffic. That is all I have. Does anybody have any questions or complaints?
So,
Yes, sir.
If you can find a microphone. I'm not sure how many are floating around. As long as it's green, you can go.
Green, it's good.
Go ahead.
You can't hear it in here. That's weird because it's just, anyway. Thanks for coming. There's those of us who show up to this appreciate, the update that you're giving us, especially the budget deficit. We heard from the governor today and whatever. But so I have just a question it's related kind of to APAC. This is what happens sometimes when development happens that maybe isn't fully planned out. But on Saratoga, going down toward El Dorado Hills Boulevard, there's a hill, and it's kind of a blind hill. So
In the left-hand turn?
yeah, well, no, I'm talking about a car went through the fence and wiped out 6 posts and part of the fence and went down the fence to 50, went down the hill and then cut back over onto Saratoga and wiped out a couple of more fence posts. So I called the county Department of Transportation. What do I know? So they were really nice. They said, that's not our fence, that belongs to the state. So the county did come out and put 2 horses in the bike lane where some of the fence posts are sticking out into Saratoga. So they tried to do something, but it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
We'll follow up with that.
Yeah, please do.
I haven't heard about that. So
Yeah.
the car was going northbound on Saratoga.
It's going
Towards El Dorado Hills Boulevard.
eastbound,
Or eastbound, I'm sorry.
Saratoga.
Yeah, eastbound.
Yeah, then went out over the fence, must have been a truck, right?
And then
Wiped out a
towards the
bu-
freeway and then.
toward
came
the
back through.
freeway, and there's not much room on the other side of that fence. You go down the hill. So they realized their error and plowed back through the fence going the other direction. And it's just it's ugly, and those metal posts are bent over and they're in the bike lane. And we get passed on Saratoga. People pass us in the bike lane when we're trying to make a left turn. And so I'm just waiting for something bad.
Well, I ride my bike there, so we need to get that fixed.
It's in the bike lane.
Yeah, no, so, yeah, we'll reach out to Caltrans and find out, or I'll talk to Rick Hatfield, the commander of the CHP, and see if they've reported it, so.
Yeah,
thank you. You know, and talking about traffic collisions, there was another fatal on Green Valley, fatal accident on Saturday morning. Car going northbound from Silva Valley, crossed over into the opposing lanes and hit a longtime resident, and unfortunately, the resident that was going westbound in Green Valley, he passed away. Probably DUI. So it's 7:30 in the morning. Go figure. So that's like the third one on Green Valley in like about a year or so. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Can you hear?
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, it's not for the room, it's for the recording.
Gotcha. I appreciate the update on the senior center. Knowing all the details, it was a no-brainer to me. But I want to know about the budget cuts. And one of the biggest things I want to know is, I know you're not filling empty staff positions, but you've got upper management, department heads that are making six figures. I want to know why they can't take a percentage cut. When the state was in trouble, when I was working there, we had to take a 10% cut as employees. I'm not saying punish the worker bees, but management can afford to take a cut.
So I've been cut also because I worked for the CHP in 99, 2000. We were either getting pay cuts or furloughs. You know, in order to attract the best people, employees, the salaries need to be competitive with our surrounding counties. So that's one reason. And I don't want to, I probably misspeak because I'm not familiar with the laws, but we just can't randomly cut salaries because everything's,
If the state could do it,
yeah, it's everything.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that is a consideration
Yeah.
because the county is in dire straits with money. Everybody's pockets need to sort of get trimmed. And that's all I'm saying is, you got these people making six figures and they are top heavy, and I'd like to know what they really do, because you had a CAO previously. You hired this one, and now she has two assistants who have the same duty statements, and I don't know what extra that they're doing. So I'm just looking at, you guys need to do some sort of a study and find out what's really appropriate for your upper management as well as department heads.
Okay.
It's just my suggestion.
I'll take that back and, file it away. But I will tell you, I worked for the state and now I'm with the county, and, and I'm elected, and we hire, we have departmental people. The people that I see working, they're working pretty hard. They really are, and the CEO's office, I know they've taken on additional responsibility, like the airports, things like that over the years. And, I've been in this 4 months, so I don't know the history, but I appreciate your comments. Yeah. Bill?
Thanks, Supervisor Ferrero, and ladies and gentlemen, Bill Knox here. And I just want, first of all, Mary Chan and I are very good friends because we served on several civil grand juries together. So we're still good friends despite doing that, just having fun, okay? I just wanted to follow up on this gentleman's comment about Saratoga because, we live in Four Seasons. And whenever we go anywhere, over towards, let's say, Roseville, we are very familiar with taking Saratoga. Saratoga to Empire Ranch Road and so forth. Even when we go on up to Yuba City, we take that. And then, of course, we come back. So I'm very familiar with the conditions that he's talking about. It is a concern. It's definitely a concern. I used to ride a bike. I don't ride a bike anymore, not because of accidents on Saratoga, but I really do believe that this is a concern that should be addressed, thought about, and considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. No, there are a couple locations on Saratoga that are not ideal. There's one, forget the name of the street, you come over the rise and
Binders?
yeah, it's before Wilson, yeah. And there's a left turn. I mean, you can make a left turn, and if someone stopped in the lane,
Right.
just a
Right.
matter of time, unfortunately, so,
Is there any more in the room?
thank you. Yes.
Do you have a microphone there? Awesome.
Yes, my name is Alan Stansberry. I live in the Four Seasons area, and I'm just asking if you have an updated status report on the new Costco project that it's been underway for a year or more.
No, I think longer than that. So I'll tell you the status of that. It's, they are in the process of starting the environmental review. I've met with Costco. The biggest concern that I've heard from neighbors in the school is the gas station. The gas station being proximate to the school. And so we actually had a meeting with the school district and PTA and Costco last week. And the school district and the PTA, voiced their concerns. And there's going to be a study, there's going to be a, air quality study on what this gas station will or will not, how it will or will not pollute the air, and how it will or will not impact the kids at the school, or will it? I don't know. And what Costco said, if it's a negative impact, they'll probably eliminate the gas station. They do own the land. It's zoned for commercial, and they're pursuing it. And so they're hoping to get approved in a year, and we'll see. If it gets, we'll see if it gets approved or not. There's a lot of people that are adamantly opposed to it, and there's a lot of people that really want it. So, but they are. It's their application is coming. Is there anything, Karen? Here, anything else? I should add? Okay.
Okay. Is there any more in the room? Check online, see if anybody has a question for the supervisor. You can go ahead and raise your hand. You are off the hook.
All right. Thank
So,
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. I don't know if anybody's on social media and stuff. I get sent a lot of stuff. I try to stay off it, but there's just, it seems like El Dorado Hills, we're going through a rough time right now, with CSD and a recall and cityhood, and people don't want cityhood, and there's just a lot of hate. And just remember, we live in a great area, so try to filter out the noise and appreciate what we have, and pretty sure everything's going to work out. So anyways, thank you. Have a good night.
Good message.
There you go. And as I mentioned, Supervisor Turnbull couldn't be with us tonight. And I'll look at Bob. Is there any updates that he asked to be forwarded to us? Oh, no. There's one, there you go.
John, I just wanted to send a positive message from George, thanking everybody for your contribution to what you do for the county and the input you give. He could not make it today. He'll be talking in greater length about the meetings he had with the congressional staff in Washington, D.C. last week. That'll all be of interest to everybody. And I will be spending several hours with him tomorrow, and anything that we might talk about today, I'll relay that to them. While I'm standing up here on behalf of the Planning Commission, members of the planning staff, thank you so much for being here. It makes my life as a commissioner so much better knowing that you're reaching out to the public. So thank you.
Okay, so here we go. I'm moving forward here. Next on our agenda, we have a guest speaker tonight, Tom Purcell, Senior Planner El Dorado County and its long-range planning. We have a discussion tonight with Tom about the overview of the County Community Design Standards Project. And Tom's, spent all day at work and now he's down here with us tonight. So thank you, Tom, and thank you for all the planning staff that are here. And when you're ready to go ahead and share that, it should go right up on the screen. And we're all ears.
Perfect. All right. Well, I don't know if can you folks all hear me, since I'll just speak loud and then hopefully the online participants won't blow out the speakers or something. But anyway, as introduced, I'm Tom Purcell, a senior planner with the Planning and Building Department's Long Range Planning Unit. Before I begin, I wanted to thank APAC members and also Chair Davey for inviting county staff to share information about our community design standards project and to answer questions and give you all an overview of coming attractions. At this time, I'd also like to introduce, for the folks who may not know, most of you do, the other planning and building department staff who are here tonight as well. Again, Karen Gardner, the planning and building department director, and we also have Thea Graybill, the acting long range planning manager as well. So if there are any outstanding questions, they can also help. We've also been highly involved in this project, and we're certainly gearing up to launch this with the community shortly. So I'll give you a brief overview of what I will be going over tonight. So we'll go over a brief project introduction and background, just how we got to where we are today, some of the milestones or the key events that have taken place with community design standards. It has been a long multi-year project. In fact, before I begin, I did meet with late Supervisor Heidel and perhaps some of you folks about 2014 in the upstairs of the Nugget Market, just talking about community planning visions for the El Dorado Hills community. So I know this has been something that the community's been very interested to engage with. And then I'll give a little bit more background. Then we'll also look at some recently adopted interim design standards that our board adopted this last December to provide a temporary measure to ensure quality development and predictable standards for design, appearance, site design, and building design to create a new baseline standard, if you will. So it can be a predictable moving forward. So we do have 2 documents in place as part of our interim design standards, and I will be talking about those. There have been many questions regarding architectural styles and design requirements for El Dorado Hills. So I will be talking about that design piece of our interim standards and how that might apply to El Dorado Hills and how it might not. And also I'll be discussing what we call an off-ramp, a way to approve different architectural styles, for example, for the El Dorado Hills community, where a specific style is not required. And then most importantly, staff are also looking for community feedback tonight, or really anytime, on preferred architectural styles and the community design approach for the El Dorado Hills community as a whole. Let me see if I can shrink this down. Is there a way to shrink that camera at all? I guess we'll leave it this way. I wanted the screen to be large enough. So I do want to acknowledge that this has been as I said, a multi-year process. And so what's on this slide doesn't begin to cover all of the details. We had much hard work completed even prior to 2022. So this slide just starts at that point in time. For example, in February 2022, the county began formal work on the project with assistance from the Mintier Harnish consulting firm. In August 2022, the county work was unfortunately paused due to significant updates to state legislation. For example, Assembly Bill 2011 and Senate Bill 6, and those were pieces of state legislation that created new laws for ministerial approvals for certain types of new construction, such as multifamily housing, if it qualifies, that can go straight to what we would refer to as a building permit or an administrative process without hearing or without discretion. So that was a change that this this project needed to take a look at to be able to fully incorporate those new laws into the project. So between December 2022 and then April of last year, the county determined that some of the work had to be redone on the draft documents, and there was a need to also amend the consultant's contract to update for the new work that would be required to address the new state laws and other items. So in July 2024, staff brought the contract amendment to the board, and the board directed staff to, number one, develop countywide interim objective community design standards in-house, in other words, by staff, and also to process a new contract amendment for professional assistance based on the interim standards for the community regions and for our county's rural centers. So the interim standards were to be the baseline or the starting point to customize design standards and guidelines for each of our community regions and then our rural centers. So in December of last year, the board adopted the interim design standards in the form of the two documents I talked about. The first, interim objective design standards, or IODS, for state streamlined ministerial projects, those that qualify for streamlined ministerial processing, such as many multifamily projects and others that qualify. And the board also adopted interim design standards and guidelines for all non-streamlined projects. So we're calling that the IDSG document. Those went into effect on January 3rd of this year, and they will continue to remain in effect until permanent design standards are developed for each community region and rural center. Then just recently in April, the board approved a revised contract for permanent community design standards for the county's community regions and rural centers, and that launches us into the renewed effort that we wanted to bring to you today. So the first document that was approved as part of the interim standards is called the Interim Objective Design Standards, or IODS. These standards apply only to state streamlined ministerial projects. So as we talked about, it would be qualifying projects under state laws codified under SB 35, AB 2011, and some others. These were designed to protect the community from poorly designed ministerial projects, again with design predictability and certain features required for all permit submittals. And these are consisting of objective site and planning, building and design standards. By objective, I mean measurable. And so that developers know what's to be expected, but most importantly, the communities know what will be brought forth, what the design parameters are for new development. And those are brought out in detail in the attached document. So for those folks who were able to log into the agenda, the interim objective design standards is posted there. I also have about 6 copies. It's a rather thick document. I have 6 copies of the IODS document as well, if those folks would like to peruse and look for any specific details. The document is full of many details. However, this document is not community specific. It's a one size fits most approach to create a baseline for quality development that meets the intent of state law, but gives some oversight in terms of what that development will look like. But it's not community specific. So it's not tailored to El Dorado Hills or Cameron Park or Diamond Springs and El Dorado per se. This is basically in place for everyone right now. The board also adopted a document called the Interim Design Standards and Guidelines, or the IDSG. So that applies to all the other non-streamlined projects. It has general building and site design requirements. Those are all based on use. So for example, for commercial fueling stations, it has a requirement that all support structures for a fuel canopy be fully encased in materials matching the main building. So that's just one example of a detail that's brought forth. So the fuel canopy will match the building. That wasn't in existence prior to these interim standards happening. We also have we have specific architectural styles or designs required for the Shingle Springs, Diamond Springs, and El Dorado community regions, and also for the rural centers. However, there is no specific architectural style requirement required in the IDSG document for El Dorado Hills and also for Cameron Park to preserve the existing architectural diversity and also to allow for design flexibility. So I'll get to what we call that off-ramp in a minute. But in order to provide an alternate architectural style, that the submitted plans do have to have architectural oversight by a qualified professional, such as a licensed architect or a qualified engineer, and among other things, a certification is required that that design would be compatible with the neighborhood to where the proposed development is going. So that's what we have here for El Dorado Hills. I'll get more onto the other styles for the other community regions. Just as an overview of the project, the documents are fairly thick, but under this project that we're officially launching, communities are now able to take the interim design standards and individualize them to meet community needs. So this is an opportunity to start with those interim standards and get them customized to meet what the community feels is most important in terms of design. These standards are to be based, like we said, on the interim community design standards, those two documents. They apply to each of our 4 community regions as listed there, and they also apply to our 29 rural centers. This project also allows each community to take advantage of technical expertise from our award-winning design consultant. And it also allows for extensive community engagement and outreach. So what we're doing here tonight is going to be typical throughout the process of the community design standards development to make sure that each community, when it's their turn, has the opportunity to customize the interim standards for exactly what each community is looking for. So we'll definitely be outreaching with next steps on that. For the communities up the hill that are required to maintain architectural styles, such as El Dorado Diamond Springs or Shingle Springs, these are 4 of the styles in that IDSG document that can be selected for those areas. They include the Railroad Craftsman, what we call Industrial Farmhouse, the Gold Rush. I think most folks are familiar with that, and also for our upper elevations, the mountain or lodge structure. Those structures are similar to what is already built in the communities such as Pollock Pines and South Lake Tahoe. So architectural styles are not required in our interim documents for El Dorado Hills. And as we said, that one reason for that is because there's already a lot of architectural diversity throughout the community. For example, the Montano de El Dorado Center is more of an Italian or country feel. Then we have the La Borgata Center just down the road, which is even more Tuscan feel. Then we have some other shopping centers such as Rayleigh's, which are more farmhouse. And many of those local projects are designed with specific local design regulations in place, such as development plans, so that all those designs can be compatible with the neighborhood that they're already in. So with all that diversity, these documents don't declare that everything new has to be built Gold Rush or farm style or what have you. We don't have a specific style under the interim documents, but they do call for architectural quality. So again, they have site building and design requirements. And then for the folks who look at the document for detail, the section referred on the slide gives you some more details about that architectural off-ramp. The detailed requirements for projects who don't have to build to a certain style like here, but all of the check boxes that those projects have to meet to guarantee a baseline of quality and to guarantee that they will be compatible with the neighborhood to which the development is going. So in other words, a farmhouse style design may not fit in a Tuscan neighborhood. So that we want to be able to look at that. So this off-ramp or the flexible approach does allow for flexible designs, but maintain standards for quality. So in terms of this project, the key consideration as we're looking to get the standards customized for each community that wishes to participate is to allow for community choice. So these local design standards can reflect the community input and architectural preferences. They can tailor design guidelines to help maintain El Dorado Hills' unique character. And also, without specific standards, there is a risk that new development may conflict with community values, depending on what those values are and where the developments are brought forward. And then under this project, in terms of our April contract with our design consultant, we do have the ability now to engage design expertise to create customized style architectural design guidelines and standards for the community preferences. And we have the subject matter experts on board now to help the county do that. So just before I get into some specific feedback that the county staff are looking for from the community and to talk about next steps moving forward and how folks can get involved, these are some ways to get involved early in the project, to find out the current status in your community, to see when things may be spooled up for El Dorado Hills and what the pulse of the community is at that time, et cetera. Questions or comments can be sent to my direct desk phone. We also have a project email address, edcdesignstandards@edcgov.us. And if El Dorado Hills participates in this project when it is the turn for this community, then there will also be a specific website for the El Dorado Hills community as well. So you wouldn't have to all send your emails to a general design bucket. Another good way to stay involved is to subscribe to our project email updates. So that link that should be live on the presentation can go right to a screen where you can sign up for design standards updates. You can also check our long-range planning web pages or our public notices web page on the county site to get updates as well, because staff do upload updates to those web pages as often as they happen. So new information is also posted there. I just wanted to say before our next slide, yeah, I think we talked about that. So again, the staff just want to get specific feedback from each community. So that will be the goal moving forward from this community as well. Here's some discussion items that staff are looking looking to get feedback from the community. Doesn't mean that we need all answers to all questions tonight. But if El Dorado Hills does seek to develop permanent community-specific design standards and guidelines as part of this project, staff and the consultant team could tentatively begin work in the El Dorado Hills community either in late 2026 or we're thinking potentially early 2027. The process to create new customized standards and guidelines for El Dorado Hills would be expected to take about 5 to 7 months. Might be a little shorter, might be a little faster. But these are some of the key points that staff are looking for feedback on from tonight's meeting. Or if folks have further questions, you can always shoot me an email, give me a call, or connect with county staff at any of the options on the previous slide. So just looking at it, kind of starting at a top level and working down, what should the design of future development look like? Again, there's no wrong answer. What architectural styles or design features do you believe are most appropriate for El Dorado Hills? Do the current interim design standards and guidelines meet the community's design preferences? So one thing I would encourage all of you to do, if you haven't, is go ahead and download those documents from the APAC website, or take a look at I have a few hard copies here. Take a look at those 2 interim design standards documents and see if you feel that those documents would adequately meet the needs of the El Dorado Hills community. And then also, are there specific design features or architectural styles that the community wants to apply to new development in El Dorado Hills? There might be something missing that we haven't thought of. I mean, we definitely like the community's feedback on that. So those are all the discussion points that I had at this time. But myself and other staff are definitely here for any questions or comments.
I'll turn the microphone back Thank you. I know that, we've had a couple of iterations right over the years where I think COVID stopped one of the early ones. And I think we had probably 3 or 4 APAC voting members or officers that were involved in that. And we struggled back then because we didn't know if we should be in front leading that. I think we preferred to have the community in front. So we didn't want to have APAC endorsing or leading the conversation. And I know that, and I talked to some folks in the Chamber Park DRC, they were participants as well. And obviously that project stalled. So do you expect that if the opportunity and we have engagement from the community, maybe a similar thing where we have a sort of a group of people who want to volunteer? Would you have like discussion panels like that, or is it a different process with the consultant we have now?
Those are great questions. I can jump right in on.
Okay.
So
I keep stealing.
I'm really glad you asked. The consultant contract and the outline of the project from staff does provide for specific touch points for those issues. The first is staff are going to work with the communities to form a stakeholder group that will periodically advise the community and also take part in the community tour. I'm envisioning at least 10 folks from different folks that work or live or otherwise do business in each community, including El Dorado Hills. So one of the first steps staff will do is engage community members to get a group of stakeholders to be a key advisory body, if you will. And the role of the stakeholders will be to first join a community tour, and then also take part in a detailed survey following the tour that would help the consultant provide answers to some of these questions. And based on what properties we look at on the tour, would help the consultant to know what to add or subtract from those interim design guidelines to make them as custom as possible for El Dorado Hills. And if there's items that are not in the guidelines or standards or guidelines that the community wants, the stakeholders would have the first bite at that apple, the first opportunity to weigh in out in the community to see what to give us their thoughts on those pieces. Then the second piece is this consultant contract and project outline in front of you. We gave up a couple of early on board and planning commission workshops in favor of the communities. So typically the process for starting a new ordinance update, for example, is to begin with drafting the code and then ask for a workshop with our planning commission and board to help formulate the details, to get feedback as we craft the codes. Since this is a community-based effort, staff felt like this would the best, most efficient approach would be to start with communities. So we will be having up to 2 community-oriented workshops at the very beginning to begin to craft the standards before they even go to public hearing or to the final adoption stage. So the first step would be that stakeholder group, and then it would be followed by up to 2 community-based meetings where they don't necessarily have to be in front of board-appointed committees. However, staff would encourage those community meetings to be hosted by the local advisory committees like this one. So if the community wanted to host, for example, to participate, then those community workshops could be hosted here. It could be an APAC function to get the word out. But it's not required to be. I mean, we wanted to be focused on the community first and just see what best worked for venue. And but it is an option to come back to this venue if that would be preferred by the community.
Nice. Okay, well then in the room, are there any questions? Oh, you got a microphone somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you. No, I like what you said, John, and I was kind of on the fence whether I wanted to support this or not because I didn't see a lot of benefit for El Dorado Hills, certainly benefit for the communities up the hill. We'll probably have more benefit on the south side of the freeway because that's more ripe to be developed. But I was thinking, APAC or a subcommittee of APAC, to, be able to partner with you and provide the impact. I mean, you don't have the bandwidth to do it, but you have the reach and probably could generate some interest for El Dorado Hills.
Several years ago, this project did start, and I know that there was a tour. It took half a day. There were 3 or 4 vehicles involved. I know the county was involved with it. but the consultant that you hired was involved with it. And there were 12 or 15 members that spent a day going around looking at different architectural features in El Dorado Hills. And they did meet and they did start the process. So maybe you reach out, if you still have those records, you reach out to some of those people, because I know my wife was one of those people. I know several people on that list have either passed away or moved out of the area. But there were some, I know there are some that are still living here, and if you could maybe see if they still want to be involved, that would be a good start. You know, don't throw away everything that was already done.
No, and I do have the old records to which what was available to be kept. So yes, I do have that. I will look for those older stakeholder lists. But thank you. I'll definitely reach out or have other staff work with me to do that.
Is anybody in the room? Any questions? Well, Tom, I think you've addressed everything. Wow. If nobody's standing up right away, I'll go online and see if anybody's got their hand up. And I don't see anything here. Yeah, so I guess we should let you go. But I would say that yeah, I know that we did have members of APAC that were interested in it, and we wanted to make sure that they could participate and not call it an APAC function, and they were willing to do that. And I think COVID is what got in the way of that first iteration, because they had several meetings. Yeah, several.
COVID that did.
Yeah, so hopefully there's still an interest, and the community's only gotten bigger. And I know that as projects come in, Costco as an example, the first thing they asked when there was a stakeholders meeting for that was they looked at design elements, architectural styles in existing commercial facilities, and they wanted to solicit input right away. It's like, hey, do you want it to match, Rayleigh's? Do you want it to match something south of the highway, La Brigada, all those other things? So I think when the time comes, we'll probably have at least a handful of people that are willing to jump in, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that you get some good feedback from that. So if there's nothing else left,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I did want to give folks just an idea of next steps. So again, we're looking at in late 2026 or early 2027, that would be the timeline that the board gave us. So they directed specifically to start with the community of Shingle Springs, and then give each community region in turn an opportunity for each community to engage in creating those customized standards. So El Dorado Hills is following the other 3 community regions as directed by the board. That being said, I think in terms of next steps, the first big item is we are looking to engage late 2026 or early 2027 with the El Dorado Hills community, if that is the preference of this group. And then what that would look like, though, we would start by stakeholder outreach. So in late 2026, I will definitely, or before that, we'll probably keep in touch. I will work with our other staff to compile a list of the stakeholders to represent the different sectors of the El Dorado Hills community. We'll be working on that first. Then we'll plan a tour of the multifamily commercial zone, similar to what was done, but we don't want to duplicate all previous efforts. We want to be most efficient as we can. And then with that, the next step would be to set up, based on the results of the tour, the consultant will then start the process of customizing the standards and guidelines. Approximately a month and a half, 2 months after the community tour, we'll have a couple of community workshops. This venue would be fine if that's appropriate with the community. It doesn't have to be an APAC hosted event, but this would be, if this is an agreeable venue, we'd be happy to come here. And then the community would have a couple of opportunities to open up the draft documents. The first one created based on the tour and stakeholder input, see what they think, what should be added, what should be taken away, are we missing anything? Go back and revise that document, present a second one, maybe a month later. And then that document is what would get launched to formal hearings and adoption and go through environmental review, that kind of thing. So the whole process might take around 7 months. We hope not as long, but it really depends on how long it takes for the timeline of each step.
Awesome.
Let me just ask you something. I think the biggest controversy we've had in the last 7 years with design standards was with District Church when they built.
It was, not District Church. It was, I'm drawing a blank.
On El Dorado Hills Boulevard.
Thank you.
Which one? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. A lot of people said that was a very modern building. It did not fit the style of what they perceived that El Dorado Hills should have. So question for you, are churches exempt from design standards because of their unique function under the Bill of Rights, religious liberty, freedom of religion, and design standards?
Well, on the county side, I mean, and this gets into some legal points, but in general, I think on the county side, it really becomes a site-specific question. I hate to, because of the fact of the matter, it also depends on the unique zoning. It depends on if there is a development plan zoning in place over that property or not. Many churches do. So I think the effect of the local standards means that there really isn't a one size that fits everyone. Most churches are required to have a use permit that doesn't govern design per se. However, historically, use permits have also been used to regulate design and layout and customize each church proposal, each church plan. So I don't know that there's one answer that fits. The other piece is the board specifically directed that this project look at commercial, multifamily, and mixed use. So those specific uses and the zones that allow those. We weren't specifically focused on churches or other uses just because that would broaden it to probably more than would fit the timeline for these standards. But I think churches, it's more of a site-specific question. I don't know if that helps.
It helps.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
thank
does
you.
help, yeah. I think at the time, the proposal they came in with was industrial warehouse, which did match, anything. And across the boulevard, obviously, we have some Mediterranean, we have some Italian. And so that was a concern, but they did hear that and they did respond and they changed their plan completely. But they were willing to do that. So I think that's why, it's always a question because nobody stepped in and made them do it. They voluntarily said, oh, well, we're hearing you. So, yeah, so not to, get anybody in a pickle, but, that was the one that was sort of controversial in terms of architecture. So I appreciate you entertaining that question. So.
Oh, no problem. Any other questions or from the Zoom participants for staff?
I don't see any online anymore in the room. Okay. Well, thank you for coming out. And obviously, if there are changes or more developments, virtual is okay too. But we appreciate you spending time with us tonight. And thank you both for helping Tom out tonight. And Tom did provide some materials, and they're up here. If anybody wants a copy, we'll hold on to them up here, or if you want to put them out, however you want to do it.
Like a copy of the slides. I have a few copies of those two interim standards and guidelines documents. You're welcome to that. Well, thank you.
Oh, my battery's dying on this. I should plug this in. I'm going to disappear. Oh, and I'm back. Okay. Well, thank you for that. We're going to move ahead. The next item on our agenda, we're moving on to our projects for APAC topics. So the first thing is, I should probably share this just so we're looking at the same thing. And we just talked about this, and there's a little bit of information about this. And Linda, if you want to jump in on this, I'll run through what's in front of us. And then, Linda is the chair of our Standing Transportation Committee. I want to say it was March where we had this presentation from Dustin and Matt about and Supervisor Ferrero spoke about earlier too, the El Dorado Hills Latrobe Road, El Dorado Hills Boulevard Latrobe Road US 50 Interchange Improvement Project. There is a minor update to the final environmental impact report. And apparently that's funny. I'm going to jump through this. So it was approved yesterday by the Board of Supervisors, and we did have a bit of a discussion about it at the meeting, and we knew that this was going to be coming forward. So timing wise, we're just letting you know that this happened and it was approved. Some of the minor, they're all significant when you look at these, you know, when they're being reviewed, but some of the things that they looked at in the, I want to say it was addendum or an update for the final environmental impact report. Air quality, item 1, the mitigation measures, talked about constructing, during the construction of the project using measures to reduce construction impacts on air quality. And there's a very long list. I'm not going to put it on here tonight, but we do have it on the APAC website. Just so that it meets the air quality management district rules and regulations here in Dorado County during the construction, specifically items like how the equipment runs on the diesel and how they capture particulates or minimize particulates. The balance of the more significant things on this were the bio impacts, the biological impacts. There were 10 biological impact that they identified in this update. So 1 through 4 dealt with the northwestern pond turtle habitat that might be impacted there, and they have specific measures 1 through 4 how they will mitigate with that. Number 5 was the burrowing owl mitigation, because there's there's possibility that burrowing owl might be in place as construction starts, or there right now. And then they also, these other ones are pretty consistent with how most projects identify biological impacts. And there's number 6 was awareness training session delivered by a biologist. Number 7 was how they were going to be marking the environmentally sensitive areas with fencing and staking. So they define all these things in the final EIR so that they're known when they move forward, and that, you know, all of us with our eagle eyes will be watching and making sure that these things are happening. Number 8 was about the grassland, the annual grassland that might be disturbed by the project activities during construction, so that those areas would be regraded and seeded with a native California hydroseed mix. Number 9 was a pre-construction survey for the California black rail that's going to be conducted where the habitat for the species occurs around or adjacent to the area or within the area. And the last one for biological was a nesting bird survey that they do. I have the number 7 twice. I copy and paste it, and that was in their choice. 7 days prior to the construction activities, so they can just identify potential nests and then minimize the impact on them. You know, wait out a nesting season, a fledgling season, items like that. So that was approved by the board. Is there anything that you saw, Linda, that you thought because it was very expected and it wasn't super impactful. I don't want to make you get up, but if you're going to, oh, I made you get up, so.
I don't know where the things are. Yeah, I mean, we took a look at it and we didn't see anything that was of concern, which is why we just didn't have final feedback. I thought about confirming for the board yesterday, but okay to be approved anyways. But we did take a look and there wasn't anything to highlight. So.
Anything you want to? And Adam is here tonight. Is there anything that you felt that we should observe or that we missed?
Not at all. Not at all. I appreciate you bringing it up. I do have a handout package, which is the board presentation. If anybody wants to see that, that's here. And also remind folks that you can go online, view the board meeting online. So anybody's got any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. This is the last phase of this interchange. It's been in construction 20 years.
Yes.
But it will provide some significant benefit northbound the probe, and it also takes care of some pedestrian access in bicycle.
Yeah.
Makes it a little safer. So,
And obviously we're not solving every problem with it, but we've addressed many things. So, and Bill, you've been looking at it for a while.
Yes, so I want to thank you guys, thank DOT especially for being open to the feedback that came from the traffic committee and being so cooperative in the way that went down. That was, I think, the model for the way we'd like to work with the county, where we actually look at problems, we try to solve them together and get a good outcome. So thank you very much for that.
And so, and again, we had this presentation in March at our meeting, and the slides are here. We don't have to look at them. I'll jump through. We talked about the project history, many phases, what the purpose and the need. You know, we need to improve resolve some deficiencies there. And Supervisor Ferrero identified some of them, widening the eastbound loop off ramp onto northbound, and then the reconstruction widening the eastbound on ramp, those lanes there, which is a great place to teach your kid to drive, to get on the freeway. Believe me, it's the safest place here. So, and then adding additional lane northbound on Eldorado Hills Boulevard, because everybody knows that if you're traveling from the south, it seems like every single lane is turning left to get on the highway. So now an additional northbound lane will hopefully alleviate some of the bottleneck. We talked about improving the bicycle and pedestrian facilities. We know they're better than they are right now, and we have some bicyclists and some pedestrians that are concerned that maybe they could be better, but this is what we're getting, and it was a long process to get it. And then some of the drainage and retaining walls and modifications to the culvert for Carson Creek, and just we have these images on the website. We actually have a page that has the links to all the documents for this as well, and then just sort of the improvements that we're looking about. So it's nice to have positive things happening and money being spent here to resolve it. It's taken a long time. A lot of this has been planned, but getting it into motion and constructed is it's nice to have that end in sight. And then we'll worry about what the next upgrade will be. So, and then the next steps, obviously, we just went through the CEQA process with adding to that final EAR. So, and then there's the timeline. We talked about contract possibly in spring of 2027 and construction as well. And complete with 28. That'd be awesome. So thank you, Adam, for being here tonight. I appreciate you coming all the way down to listen to me talk about it. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, not a problem. So the next item we have tonight is something we talked about at our last meeting. APAC is looking to create a volunteer curated library for project review and what we do and what are the resources that we can make available instead of us scrambling and say, oh, I think I saw that, or it's linked here. Linda, both of you have been working on this. So
in the board voting member meeting last month, it was brought up the idea of, hey, when we say, if you want to review a project, usually people like their eyes glaze over, especially once they see the documents. So we've all been there. And so we kind of talked about it. And then Nancy over here volunteered to do it along with me. So what we're going to do is kind of build up a library of information that we're going to put on the APAC website that hopefully will make it easier, or at least give some general information in a central place for people to be able to go through projects and not get totally mind numb, hopefully. So a few of the examples are, like, I'm putting together a list of standard acronyms and their definitions. I don't know about you, but acronyms drive me crazy, but we all use them. So, and then the development process outline, I'm putting together a page with links to the county website, wherever they have, like, I have a link to the general plan. They also have an area for CEQA planning. And so there's a lot of information there already. So I'm going to centralize that. I'm going to include, once there's their own processes that are documented, I'll create links to them, because I'm not going to assume what their processes are. Okay. So mostly county information, because that's where the main source of information should be coming from as we're analyzing the requests. I'm putting an outline of the CEQA/EIR categories. So there's a number of areas. When you go to do an environmental impact report, they do those specific areas. Just kind of give a highlight on what those are so people can have a better understanding of them. Including some references outside of the county. For example, I'd received for the federal DOT, the Construction Program Management Inspection Guide. All of those things could be helpful information. Then things to look for, hints and tips. So people that have gone through program reviews and project reviews before, we can put just they're bullet points. They're not going to be paragraphs of information to think about, just to encourage you. And then one of the things, Nancy and I were talking just a little bit more, is where do you even start? Because there's no way we can say, here's your full checklist, do all these things in this order. Because if you've looked at these documents, they're huge. So some of it's just kind of giving permission of a starting place, right? Where's the easiest place to start? Just start reading. Anything you could do to do research ahead of time would be great. So looking through some of the county information and the links, they'll prepare you for looking through the project documents. But anyways, that's what we're working on. And the reason I'm up here is to get your input, right? If there's things that you think would be beneficial, let me know. Maybe update the agenda and like put my email address on there. It's
Sure, we
like,
can do
it's
that.
like campbelledcprojects@gmail.com. But we can do that and just send me ideas. The intent is, like I said, to put them in a quick access place on the website. So when you start reviewing them, then you have a source of information. And then also remember, as you're reviewing projects, there's others of us that are available to help, right? You should never feel like, you're too dumb to provide the stuff. That's not it at all, right? We all have questions. So that's what we're working on. Appreciate your input because we want to put it together to help you. So.
And thank you guys for taking that on. And Nancy did a lot of review work for the Central project, and we all kind of started the same way. It's like, this is massive. Where are we? So we all picked a place to like touch. It always seemed to lead to something else. So having all this in one central location, we have a lot of these elements across the APAC website, but it's not in one place. So it's going to be very valuable. So thank you both for taking this on. And if anybody would like to help, we'll make sure, yeah. So we'll probably put a page up real quick and just identify what we're doing and sort of the concept. And then if you're ready for emails, we'll put an email address on there as well. So moving along, next tonight, we have some notifications. These are underway right now. So Marble Valley Specific Plan in Lime Rock. Recently, it was in April when it was released. So they have some partially recirculated draft EIRs. The draft EIR was out last May, I think, and we've had them come and make presentations about the project and then about the traffic impacts recently. But the expectation was that they thought all these projects that came out last year in the spring, they thought they'd be done by December of 2024. And here we are in the spring of 2025. So Marble Valley, these are 60-day review periods for these recirculated, partial recirculated draft environmental impact reports. So Marble Valley will start with, there's a 60-day comment period that ends on June 23rd of 2025. And again, to read from the notice, it's the focus, well, this is us. The focus is pretty narrow. Changes to the draft in EIR contained in this partial are focused on updating biological resources, hazardous and hazardous materials, and recreation sections. There are no changes to the project itself, and the remainder of the previous draft EIR, which is not being recirculated, is not part of this comment period. So if there are things in the last EIR when it first came out, and it's not something that's being updated, you can comment on it, but it probably won't be considered. So so these are sort of the very simplified versions of what's going on. There is specifically the crotch bumblebee, and I'm not speaking Latin. Latin's on there if you want it. It was added as a candidate species. The crotch bumblebee, which would be a great band name. It's added as a candidate species for the state of California in terms of endangered species. It was not included in the draft EIR that was released. 3 additional impacts for offsite improvement areas that under the biological resources were added for clarification to address that. So it's a new list of species. They have to go back now and say, okay, we have to do the analysis on this and say if there is or is not an impact, what the mitigations may be, or if they can't mitigate, that type of thing. And then there's also additional information, and I read this real fast. I went on a trip and I gotta go back and look at it again. Additional information for recreation. It relates to El Dorado Hills and Cameron Park CSDs. Facilities demand assessment has been prepared and attached in the document. It's for public review, although they're saying the conclusions to the draft EIR, even with this new information, remain the same. So, but if somebody wants to comment on that, or if they think it's appropriate, or they identify something they have a concern about. And then the last item that they talked about was the risk of human-caused wildfire to existing, over the existing baseline risk was added because of a lawsuit between the state and the county, Lake County and Lotus Land Investment Holdings. So that determination has required them to make another analysis and assessment in terms of the risk of human-caused wildfire over the baseline that their project might generate. And we've had a lot of discussion with the applicant where they've identified that their designs and construction, their proposed construction methodologies, how everything will be built, will probably mitigate the fire risk more than projects have in the past. But we got to look at it and write and make an assessment and provide some feedback on that. So those are the things that they're doing for Marble Valley. This will be available on here. You can read about it. It's you know, we talked about the transportation impact analysis that they've done. There's a lot of the appendix are in there. All the information is there. We're not going to go over it all tonight, but and then we'll move on to Lime Rock. The same sort of elements, the same descriptions, very narrow, talking about biological resources, hazards and hazardous materials, and recreation resources. But with this recirculated draft EIR, there's no changes proposed to the project itself. So, and the other items that are in the original draft EIR are not subject for comment on this one. And again, the same thing, it's our friend the crotch bumblebee. The CSD issues between Cameron Park and El Dorado Hills, that they had to do the assessment. You know, what the impacts will be in Cameron Park is it's adjacent to Cameron Park. It's the very end of El Dorado Hills. It's the border of El Dorado Hills CSD for part of the one project and not for the other. So these items, you know, were sort of there, but they've done some additional analysis. So we have an opportunity to provide some feedback on that. And then the same thing with the risk of human-caused wildfire over the baseline because of the lawsuit that was processed. So that's why these are being recirculated, and you all have an opportunity to make comments. And it's the same. They did for the fire part of this. They've modified the EVA routes, emergency evacuation. But they're saying that even with the modification, the conclusions are the same in terms of their analysis. So, you know, that's going to become a bigger and bigger topic as we're reviewing projects and what the state may or may not jump into in terms of requiring mitigation or just analysis. Maybe they won't, but it's on top of everybody's mind. So if you have an interest and you have time to read these documents, it's much smaller than the first one. So if you have an opportunity, anybody would like to do that. If you'd like to do that for APAC or in conjunction with APAC, anything you generate on your own, you know, you could submit yourself, but we would love to benefit from your hard work if you'd like to share with us. And if there's things that you want to hear from us, we're available for that as well. And again, the comment period on this, they both are June 23rd. So plan your summer vacations accordingly. So are there any questions on that? It's just more reading and more work that Bill wants to do. Yes. So, so El Dorado Hills area project updates. We talked about Marble Valley and Lime Rock just now. Those comment periods end on June 23rd. Town and Country Village, El Dorado. I haven't talked to them in a little bit, but they've been very engaged with us since 2018 or 17. We've had them here probably almost a dozen times. You know, their draft EIR was issued. We all provided feedbacks. There's no update about if the final is pending or there's a timeline, but I'm sure we'll hear once it gets close, or it'll be a happy surprise when we're all on summer vacation. Creekside Village Specific Plan, we had that presentation just a couple of months ago. They've been so engaged with our standing committees. I mean, it's wonderful to have that engagement, and we typically don't see that. Bahana Group, the Wing Group, they've been very engaged with us on both their projects, and we appreciate it. It's so valuable for us. And I think it demonstrates to residents, right, that they're willing to hear. You might not be able to fix everything to your satisfaction, or maybe you just don't like it, but we don't always get that dialogue. So it's very valuable. So thank you for that. And the only thing we wanted to mention on that is that the the draft EIR is pending. It's expected to be published soon. We had some anticipation that we'd be talking about it tonight, but it's just not there yet. So when we know it, we'll post it, we'll share it, and we look forward to that, ongoing engagement. So thank you guys. Win teams in the back of the room. So thank you guys for both coming down to listen to us tonight. The El Dorado Hills Costco, same thing. The draft ER is pending. We've had a lot of community feedback. Supervisor Ferraros described some of the activities that have taken place in terms of communication and dialogues with groups. The thing that I think most people identify is the proximity to the school and what the potential impacts will be. And, state law is funny about gas stations next to schools. There's schools in Placerville that are literally next to a gas station. I grew up in East Sacramento. We had gas stations across the street from our schools. So times are different and we know more now. So what's the impact? And, as long as we do the analysis and we can provide some feedback, we obviously can't control the decision, but we can control what we talk about and how we can address these things. So, and that's a big project. It's transformational for our community. So we'll be hearing more about that. We have heard nothing about generations at Green Valley. The draft EIR was issued. We provided our feedback. Again, no update yet. It's another project that anticipated approvals in December, but obviously there are things that they need to work on in terms of the analysis. And we've talked a lot about Gateway. It was a pre-app, and they went to the Board of Supervisors and made their pre-application presentation. I did see and track it. I haven't read these project numbers were submitted on May 9th, which was Friday, but there are no documents in there yet. So I would anticipate that will start getting populated as they process the documents, get everything digitized and put in. But those were turned in, and we did have a couple of presentations from that group in terms of what they anticipate their project to be. So if anyone wants to raise their hand to work on any of these project reviews, and if you don't want to do it publicly, you can email. We have email on our website, and officer emails are at the top of our agendas. So if there's any questions about these, I don't know that we have answers, but if there's any questions in the room or online, I'm watching the online. Wow, we're doing good. I just jinxed it. So we did not have a meeting last month because there was no information on any of these projects that was new. There was no information from our volunteers working on reviews, no information from the planning department, no information from applicants. But we did have the room reserved. So voting members and officers, we met here and we talked about something that's been requested by a lot of community members about APAC becoming a nonprofit corporation. And so, we don't have anything prepared tonight. We just talked to it. These two guys are working on, essentially what it came down to is everybody thought it was probably appropriate. So Tim and Bill are talking about the steps it takes, what the costs are. The concerns we had about this is that, we're not funded by anybody. So we pay for this ourselves. So a lot of people offered to provide funding, donate money. Okay. We don't want to touch anything if there's not a formal organization in place to accept this legally. So the costs, I think we're probably under $2,000 a year, roughly. So so we don't want to do a big fundraising drive. We don't want to have excess funds in place. We just want to cover the costs, and we want to provide an opportunity for community members who want to support us, but we're not going to make it a requirement. So the other item we discussed was the fact that, we're all volunteers, and you in the audience are volunteers. And if we do something and a project gets denied or changed in some meaningful way that a project applicant isn't real happy with, nobody wants to get sued. So the idea of becoming a nonprofit corporation is that we could probably do director and officer a liability policy for that to protect us and protect volunteers. And also the idea, APAC's been around since 1981, and it's just been through the effort of us as neighbors to do this. But we wanted to have a structure in place that formalizes this so that it's self-sustaining and that there's a succession plan in place in case I jump in front of a bus or do some goofy water skiing thing. But No, we want to make sure that this is something that we've invested time in and that the community is invested in, that it's sustainable and it remains of value. So those are all the reasons that we moved forward and decided to do that. So I imagine sooner rather than later, we'll be talking about what it takes to, I'm the president of one nonprofit, so here comes another one. But we will take the steps that are necessary, and then we'll have to, address the funds necessary to do it, file with the state, file with the federal government. And then that way, when we make presentations and findings to the county or other agencies, they know that we're not just, well, we are a group of neighborhood yahoos, but we'll be a formal group of neighborhood yahoos. So I appreciate the fact that our officers and our voting members had concern and wanted to protect this organization and make it more formal. So that's where we're at with that. Is there anything I'm missing?
No, it's a process. It takes a while. We have to draft articles of incorporation. Now, luckily, you can go online and pretty much get draft articles of incorporation where you just plug in a name and stuff like that. Same thing with bylaws. But, one of the things, and, John started the meeting by saying that if you live in El Dorado Hills, you're a member. Well, under our current structure, that may be true. But if we become a nonprofit, that's not necessarily
Yes.
true. So, I mean, we have to, look at things like that. Some of them are legal, and I'll take a look at that. And some of them more technical, just filing requirements, make sure we don't start it and then screw it up by not filing the right forms with the federal government. So we'll get it straight. It's, I know John Raster, one of our vice chairs, was hoping that would have it done in a month. It's a longer process than that, but we're started the process, and we will present updates at our meetings as we go forward.
Yeah, and the other part of it too is once this is finalized, we'll probably have to have business meetings that won't be project review meetings. So those will have to be, we need to separate them so that we're not doing both at the same time. So maybe 2 meetings in 1 month sometimes. We could probably do quarterly or whatever we need to do, but did I miss anything?
Can I go to someone else though?
Yes, please do.
Before we adjourn, I want to introduce Chief Dustin Hall. I don't know if all of you know Dustin. Dustin is a division chief here in the fire department. He's been with us 6 years now, Dustin. Anything that Chief Lilienthal, if he doesn't know where to give it or who it is assigned to, he assigns it to Dustin. So Dustin is one of those guys who just says, okay, I'll take the assignment. He figures it out. He gets the job done. So Dustin, I was hoping you could update this group on the status of the improvements we hope to make to this room, audiovisual improvements, and the grant that we have from the government to do so.
And then we made you get up.
That's okay. I needed to get up. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and it's a pleasure to meet you all. I'd like to first start off by saying I commend you all for being here voluntarily. We attend a lot of meetings, whether you're a board of supervisor, a deputy chief, board members. You attend a lot of meetings, and to do it on your own accord for the betterment of your community, I commend you all. So with that, what we're doing is that we were able to receive an ARPA grant from the county a couple years ago to better the AV capabilities of this room, because this room is so much used by APAC and other community members to improve it. So as everybody's walked up here and they speak into the mic thinking they're going to hear something out here for everybody else, this is specifically just for all the virtual users. We have been working very diligently trying to what we call piggybacking onto competitive bidded contracts, because as a government entity, you just can't go out and solicit one and have somebody come in and do it. It's got to be competitive, fair, equal for everybody to participate. Through that process, we're getting very close now. What you'll see behind the board members up there is that you're going to have a lot larger screen. It's going to be 188 inches. And it's going to be LED, so it's going to be a lot more vibrant. So people in the back can see it a lot better, and they're not just looking over the top of everybody's heads. They're actually going to be able to look up, gaze up. There's going to be what they call voice lifting. audio in here, meaning that you're sitting there talking, it's going to pick you up for the virtual users, but for it to be actually echoed, what they call echoing into the room, well, you'll have to come up to have a mic. So each one of the board members for EDH board, all the APAC board members would be able to sit up there, use the mics, have conversation with those virtually, as well as it actually broadcast into the room for people who may be sitting in the back and have a more difficult time to hear. So we're very grateful for the partnership and collaboration with the county. They gave us in the grant $113,000, which is a substantial amount of money, and we're very, very appreciative of it. I will say that's a substantial amount of money, yes, but it's not a substantial amount of money when you're talking about the type of technology and AV equipment. So the district is actually collaborating and partnering with the county we're also going to be expending monies in nearing $113,000, right around $100,000 to help improve this room for everybody's use as well. So again, thank you guys for participating. Anything else I can answer while I'm up, because I like being up. I hate sitting down as much as I do. So anyways, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Timeline for it to start?
Yes, ma'am. So just to kind of bore you guys to death with a whole bunch of useless information. We've actually, this project, because it was associated with ARPA, which for everybody's, just for everybody's wherewithal and kind of remembrance, because we all wanted to forget about COVID, right? Yes. Yes. So ARPA was basically a funding source to help people be safer around COVID, right? More virtual capabilities, space, et cetera. So when we first got this grant from the county, we were doing the AV section of this room because it was used so much. And then we were going through the process and it was very expensive. We looked at remodeling the main offices here as well, because we were trying to isolate people during COVID. And then once COVID kind of went away, we recognized that the benefit for the overall public is to bring it back to the AV. So I say that just to kind of give you a legacy history of it. It's transitioned a couple times, so we've been in the process for a little while. On top of that, this type of specialty for this AV type of discipline and updating isn't done by a lot of contractors. There are a lot of people who do home theater systems, but as you can see, this type of space far exceeds what most home entertainment people are able to do with the voice lifting. And I'm not a techie person at all. I actually looking forward to one day when I retire, I can get rid of all of my technology, because that's kind of where I want to be quite honest with you. I digress. But that room off to your left, the board's right, is going to have a couple more cabinets of technology because of what it's going to be required. So it is somewhat very expensive. Unfortunately, what we have found is that there is no contract out there that meets what we're going to be doing here. So we've made the determination that we're going to have to go out to RFP, a competitive bid, which we're expecting on a timeline of 3 to 5 months-ish. We have to have it based upon what the direction from the county, who is basically the authority or the authorizing agent for the grant, has to be completed, done by December 31st, 2026. And that was the federal standard. So we're going to have that done for sure. It's important for us, the use of this room, for people to be able to hear in the back as well as on virtually, to have this all completed. So that's a great question. Thanks. Yes. Yeah. Anybody else? All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's awesome information. We're glad to hear. I know we've talked with staff over the years going, hey, we're really trying to find, and as Chief described it, it's not inexpensive. So the thing that we try to do, and we forget a lot to do because we get wrapped up in getting through this and the clocks, is that, the fire department here has been a tremendous benefit to the community, not just for public safety, but just what they do for the community. When we talk about Santa Run and all the other things we do, pancake breakfast and things like that, helping the schools, and we're the benefit here for this group that we don't pay for this. It is given to us in terms of time. I come down and get a key and they make sure this door is unlocked, or I have to bug somebody on duty. But these tools weren't available to us. So we're grateful, and we need to say that more often. So thank you, Chief, and thanks for being here with us tonight. So
I'll just go to, again, I'll put on my fire board hat, just give you guys an update, because you don't come to the fire department meeting, which is tomorrow at 6 o'clock if you want to come. But in the next 6 weeks, We will have a new truck, a new boat, and a new engine delivered. Now, the truck and engine were ordered about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. There were, of course, delays with supply lines and stuff like that. Luckily, we got them in. If we order them today, it'd be about 30% more because of cost increases. The new boat, we had a boat that we've had for about 20 years. It leaks. It's not safe for our firefighters or when we have to go out on Folsom Lake to do rescues. It's wasn't in good shape. Luckily, the Board of Supervisors, using TOT funds, gave us a grant a couple of years ago to get a new boat so we could do the rescues that we do perform on Folsom Lake. And that is in final testing right now. It should be here in the next 4 weeks. We'll have a launch at Folsom Lake at the appropriate time, and we'll hope to get some community out there, but you'll see our firefighters in action on the boat. Right, Chief? That's the plan? And
We actually just had a rescue on
Yeah,
just about 4 or 5 days ago.
in the wind. Yeah, in all that wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when we have most of the current and they're really fun. But yeah, so we do have it. And again, collaboration with the county, as Director White pointed out, that was grant funded as well. So we're very appreciative for the partnership.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. And part of that partnership too is that El Dorado Hills Fire will respond to things in other places of the county with that boat when it's appropriate. So it's a great resource, not just for us here, but for countywide. So and thank you for the great update, Chief. We appreciate that. So with that, I'm gonna move forward. I promise we're getting out of here. If you have public comments you want to make and you can't be here, we just ask that you submit them to one of our many email addresses, edhapac.comment@gmail.com is the easy one, by 5 p.m. the Monday before the meeting, so that if there's something that we need to ask a guest or an applicant, that they can have the answer prepared by the time of the meeting. So, and then the questions submitted this way should be related to agenda items. Our next meeting is June 11th at 6:30 p.m. back here in this room, and also virtually online via Zoom and YouTube. So with that, no go backs. Are we adjourned? Oh, Bill?
Sorry, John.
No problem. Bill's faster than me.
No, no, no. Well, Bill Knox here. And all I simply want to do is to say, congratulations and thanks to everyone. Chief, thanks to you, your staff. Linda, I started here as a volunteer, so to speak, with APAC. And I've really, really enjoyed that and developed and become enraptured. That's a good word for an English major. You know, enraptured is becoming to enjoy this community involvement. So I want to thank you all for allowing that to happen. I look forward to developing and growing with you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. All right, so we are adjourned. And it's not even 2 hours. That's awesome. So